Roczen. I am 11 years old. I live in Germany, near Berlin. My number is 94.
Ken Roczen! Here he comes! The rookie!
Holds up Seeley. Oh! Down goes Roczen! In a big one!
All jokes aside, I want people to remember me as a bad motherfucker.
This is a story about a kid from a tiny German village who was supposed to break. The world told him to quit. His own body begged him to stop. But Ken Roczen doesn't know how to do that. Picture the worst crash you've ever seen, the kind that makes you look away. Now imagine being told you might lose your arm, and your career with it.
Dr. Viola came in and he's like, oh boy, you did a number on your arm. He said that it was almost too late. I don't know what that means. I do know what it means, but he was like, dude, we had to get you in there if you want to keep your arm,
Ken Roczen heard all of that, and he got back on the bike. But this isn't just a comeback story. It's what happens when rare talent meets a level of grit that borders inhuman. When a kid raised under East German discipline becomes one of the most stylish, explosive riders America has ever seen, and then has to rebuild himself piece by piece, again and again. The story starts in Mattstedt, Germany. Population? Tiny. Year? 1994. For most kids, a dirt bike is a fun hobby. For Ken Roczen, it was his entire world from the moment he could walk. His father, Heiko, was a former racer from East Germany. He knew the sport. He knew the discipline it required. And he passed that on to his son in a way that was nothing short of relentless. Ken had a track right on his family's property. There were no cheering crowds here, no stadium lights, just early mornings, repetitive drills, and a boy on a bike with his father watching every move. Heiko was a coach, mentor, and the harshest critic all in one. No excuses were tolerated. Mediocrity was unacceptable. This wasn't about having fun. It was about building a champion. It was tough. It was demanding. But it built the foundation for the rider he would become. Focused, disciplined, and dangerously competitive. He wasn't just learning how to ride. He was being molded into a competitor. By the time he was a teenager, the motocross world in Europe was starting to whisper his name. This kid from Mattstedt was different. He had a style, a fluidity on the bike that made him look like he was barely trying, even when he was going faster than everyone else. FIM rules said that you had to be 15 to race a Grand Prix. Ken turned 15 in April 2009. The world waited. When he finally lined up for his MX2 debut in Portugal, he set a record as the youngest Grand Prix racer in history.
I'm just so happy now, and I don't know what I'd do tonight, but I think I will make a big party.
He was just a kid, but he didn't ride like one. It took him only 4 races to make history again. At his home Grand Prix in Germany, Ken Roczen took his first ever MXGP win, the youngest to ever do it. The roar of that German crowd wasn't just for a victory.
I dropped back to 14 or 15. I came back to third, kept Jeffrey behind me.
It was for a phenom. A new star had arrived, and he was just getting started. For 2 years, he battled at the front of the MX2 World Championship. In 2011, now riding for the powerhouse Red Bull KTM team, he put it all together.
I'm Ken Roczen, I'm 16 years old, come from Germany, and I ride for the Red Bull Factory KTM racing team.
He dominated. He won 8 of the 15 Grand Prix. At 17 years old, Ken Roczen became the FIM MX2 Motocross World Champion. But that wasn't even the craziest part of his year. While battling for the world title in Europe, he was also flying back and forth to the United States to make his AMA Supercross debut. A 17-year-old kid competing on 2 different continents in 2 completely different styles of racing. Motocross in Europe and the technical stadium racing of Supercross in America. And he wasn't just showing up. In his very first full Supercross season, he stood on the podium.
Yeah, last year I got the victory, but it's the second place, it's the podium, and in the second race I just want to show these guys how I can ride.
Then he won. He took his first Supercross victory at the season finale in Las Vegas. At 17, Ken Roczen wasn't just winning races. He was rewriting the rulebook on what a young rider could achieve.
Hey, I'm Ken Roczen, I'm coming to the US.
In 2012, Ken Roczen left everything familiar behind. He moved to the United States, the heart of global motocross and supercross, to race full-time with Red Bull KTM. This was a different beast. The tracks were more brutal. The crowds were massive. The competition was a who's who of the sport's biggest legends. This is where icons were made, and Ken wanted his name on that list. He came under the guidance of Roger DeCoster, a legend himself as a team manager.
Ken Roczen, not riding here at Las Vegas at the Monster Energy Cup.
Yeah, well, Ken has had a long season, and he had a long season last year also. So he had two long seasons back to back, and I think for him it was important that he takes a break, and he will be back in the US at the end of the week, at the end of next week, and then we'll start testing with him. And now he's from now on he's going to be a full-time US rider. So
the education continued. Roczen impressed immediately, finishing second in the 2012 Supercross East Series. Then, in 2013, he dominated. He won the Supercross 250 West Championship. He was a champion in America. The next step was the big one, the premier class, the 450. In 2014, still just 19 years old, Ken moved up to the 450 class. The bikes were more powerful, the riders were bigger, stronger, more experienced. The pressure was immense. Most rookies need a season to find their feet. Ken Roczen wasn't most rookies. At his very first race of the season, Anaheim won. He shocked the world. He won. A rookie in his first ever 450 Supercross race, taking the checkered flag at the most famous season opener in the sport. The crowd was on its feet. The message was sent. He finished the Supercross season an impressive third overall. But the outdoors, that's where he truly announced his arrival. The 2014 Pro Motocross Championship is a 12-round war of attrition. It's hot, grueling, and pure speed. Ken took control of the series from the moment the gate dropped. He won 5 of the 12 rounds. He never finished off the podium except for one single moto. In his very first season on the 450, he won the Motocross Championship. The kid from Germany was now a 2-time champion in America. It looked like the start of a dynasty. He had the talent, the team, the momentum. Then, Ken did what Ken does. He made a move nobody saw coming. He left the championship-winning Red Bull KTM team. He walked away from stability and success to join the RCH Suzuki team.
Hey, I'm Ken Roczen. I'm glad to be back with the Suzuki team. Super amped on the new bike. Coming back to Suzuki is a super good feeling. I have a lot of good experience in the previous years. I've always loved my bike and my team.
A privateer squad known for heart, but not for winning championships. People questioned it. Critics called it a mistake. Why leave a winning formula? Ken's answer was simple. He needed a change. He had to follow his own path. The 2015 season was tough, inconsistent. It seemed like the critics were right. But if 2015 was a stumble, 2016 was a declaration of war. What Ken Roczen did in the 2016 Pro Motocross Championship is the stuff of legend. It's considered one of the most dominant seasons in the modern history of the sport. Out of 12 rounds, he won 9 outright, and the other 3 he finished second. He never once stepped off the podium.
First race, how did you adapt so quickly to end up here on the podium?
Oh, I don't know, especially after this first training this morning. I know I was riding so bad again, but already the heat race was so awesome, and I think with this second place, it's been so amazing.
He was on another level, untouchable for nearly the entire season. It was a display of pure, untouchable speed and consistency. He won the title back. It was a reminder. Ken Roczen wasn't just a rider on a good bike, he was a force of nature. When he was on, he was unbeatable. He was at the absolute peak of his powers. The world was his. Supercross titles seemed inevitable. His partnership with Suzuki was golden. So, of course, he changed everything again. In 2017, Ken Roczen signed a massive, lucrative 3-year deal with Honda HRC, one of the most iconic brands in motorsports. They didn't just want him to race, they wanted him to be the face of their future. The pressure was higher than ever. The expectations were enormous. And at first, he made it look easy. At the 2017 Anaheim 1 season opener, he put his Honda out in front and simply rode away from everyone. He won. A week later, he did it again in San Diego. Back-to-back wins to start the season. He was on fire. The championship was his to lose. He was the fastest man on the planet on a new bike with the world watching. Then, at Anaheim 2, the third race of the season, everything stopped. It was a rhythm section, a series of jumps he'd hit 30 times that day. But the dirt was soft, unpredictable. His back wheel hit a rut just as his suspension unloaded. He lost control mid-air with no way to save it. He was launched uncontrollably into the air. His bike was gone. For a horrifying second, Ken Roczen was a passenger, 40 feet in the air with the ground rushing up to meet him. The impact was sickening. The crowd of 40,000 fell silent.
Ken Roczen is down, and it looks like he's holding on to that left wrist.
His left arm absorbed the full impact and broke in multiple places. A compound fracture, the radial head of his elbow shattered, poking through the skin. His wrist dislocated, his radius broken. 11 fractures in total, torn ligaments, compartment syndrome, where swelling cuts off blood flow, threatening the limb itself. The Alpine Stars medical crew rushed to him. The stadium was quiet. Everyone knew this was bad. This was the kind of crash that ends careers, that changes lives. In the hospital, the reality was even worse. The doctor told him he was 6 hours away from amputation. 6 hours. His surgeon, Dr. Randy Viola, looked at the x-rays. His anesthesiologist remarked, "You're not fixing this so he can ride. You're fixing this so he can eat dinner." Ken faced 11 surgeries. His arm was open from wrist to elbow to relieve the swelling. Doctors repaired shattered bones and addressed extensive tissue damage. It was a year of agony, of doubt, of staring at a scarred, withered arm and wondering if he'd ever hold a handlebar again. The sport moved on without him. The championship was decided. New stars emerged. For many, that would be the end, a tragic close to a brilliant career. In the hospital, something flipped in his mind. His instinct to fight back took over, the refusal to quit. He told his doctor, "Just give me an elbow, give me a wrist. If I can hold a handlebar, I can win." The comeback began not with a bang, but with a painful, grueling, daily monotony. Physical therapy, relearning how to move his fingers, how to bend his arm, fighting through scar tissue and pain. He was bored, he missed writing. That simple desire is what pushed him. Not some grand speech, just a need to get back to what he loved. Months turned into a year. The moment of truth arrived. January 2018, Anaheim won, the same stadium where he'd won as a rookie, the same stadium where, a year before, his world had shattered. 11 surgeries later, Ken Roczen lined up on the gate. He'd walked into the weekend in a full suit, sharp and professional as always, but underneath the gear he was wearing now, his left arm was a roadmap of scars and metal. He couldn't even fully extend his elbow. The anticipation was electric, the return of the number 94. This was more than a race. It was a test of human spirit. When the gate dropped, he wasn't the same rider. He was cautious, calculated, but he was there, in the mix. He fought his way through the pack. The crowd roared every time he made a pass. This wasn't about winning anymore. This was about finishing. He crossed the finish line in 4th place. 4th place, less than a year after almost losing his arm, he nearly made the podium at the highest level of his sport. It was a miracle, but Ken wasn't satisfied. A racer's heart doesn't beat for moral victories. A week later, in Houston, he finished 2nd. He'd proven he was already competitive again. Momentum was building, and then it all unraveled in an instant. 2 weeks after Houston and San Diego, he tangled with another rider, Cooper Webb. They went down. In the chaos, Ken's right arm, his good arm, got caught in the spinning rear wheel of Webb's bike. It was mangled, broken bones in his hand, torn ligaments, another devastating injury. The universe seemed to be playing a sick joke. He'd poured everything into rebuilding his left arm only to have his right one smashed. His Supercross season was over. Again. The climb back from the first injury was steep. The climb from this second one felt like a vertical cliff. Doubt crept in. He admitted later he was close to throwing in the towel. But that bulletproof mindset, forged in Germany, tempered in fire, held firm.
When injuries get that heavy, both of my arms, it takes a whole lot longer than just 3-4 months to get back to things. Just because even when I started racing, I was dealing with a lot of restrictions and pain, and I had other health issues where I'm like just not feeling good and all these kind of things. And
he came back, again, for the outdoor motocross series later that year. He finished 3rd in the championship. The speed was still there. The body was just different. The years that followed, 2019 and 2020, were a battle. Not just with other riders, but with his own body. He struggled with illness, with after effects of his injuries. He was diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus, which sapped his energy, causing fatigue and brain fog. He was still fast. He won races. In 2020, at St. Louis, he won his first Supercross in 3 years. The emotion was raw, real. He finished third in the championship that year, but something was missing. The pure, untouchable dominance of 2016 felt like a distant memory. He was fighting, but he was also suffering. The joy was being squeezed out by pain and fatigue. He battled through 2021, finishing second in Supercross, third in Motocross. He was a contender always, but the spark, the sheer fun of riding, seemed dimmed. By 2022, he was miserable. The grind, the pressure, the physical toll, it was too much. After a tough start to the Supercross season, he made a shocking decision. He stepped away. He cited mental and physical health reasons. For a competitor like Roczen, that decision spoke volumes about how deep the struggle had become. He needed a change, a real one, not just a new bike, but a new approach to the sport and to his life. The answer, surprisingly, was a return to the past. In 2023, Ken Roczen left the factory Honda team. He went back to Suzuki, but not to a factory squad. He joined HEP Motorsports, a privateer team. It was seen as a step down, a veteran past his prime, riding for a smaller team. Ken saw it as freedom. With HEP, the corporate pressure vanished. He could build the bike his way. He could train his way. He focused solely on Supercross, skipping the grueling outdoor motocross series that had become so difficult for him. He also signed a 3-year deal to race in the new FIM World Supercross Championship. Less races, travel to new countries like England and Australia, a chance to see the world while doing what he loved. The change was immediate. He won a Supercross race in Indianapolis in 2023. He was battling at the front again. The smile was back. He talked openly about finding his love for the sport again, about enjoying the process, about being a dad.
If you were to ask them, I think this was probably the best thing that could have happened, because I know that they see of the steps that I've made forward compared to even the last few years.
And having a life outside of racing. He won the WSX Championship in 2022 and successfully defended it in 2023. In 2024, aboard his HEP Suzuki, he was a threat again. He stood on the podium 6 times. He won in Glendale, Arizona on a hard-packed, slick track, a totally different challenge from his previous win. He proved beyond any doubt that he was still one of the fastest riders on the planet. Not through sheer force of will against his body, but by working with it, by being smarter, by finding joy. Then, another cruel twist. At the Nashville Supercross in 2024, his bike suffered a catastrophic shock failure in the whoops section. He was ejected. The crash resulted in a broken tibia plateau, foot, and toe. Another injury, another setback. But the response was different this time. There was no doom, no talk of the end, just a focus on recovery. Because he knew how to do this now. He'd written the manual on coming back. And in March 2025, during a break in the racing season, Ken Roczen completed a personal journey he'd been on for over a decade. He became a naturalized citizen of the United States. The German kid who came to conquer America had officially made it his home. He was a father of 2, married to an American, and now, an American himself. He even made a couple of motocross appearances in 2024, dropping down to the 250 class for a race just for the fun of it. The weight was gone. So, what is the story of Ken Roczen? It's not just a list of championships, though the list is impressive. 2011 MX2 World Champion, 2014 and 2016 450 Motocross Champion, 2013 250 Supercross West Champion, 2-time WSX Champion, winner of the Motocross Des Nations with Germany in 2012. It's not just the 21 Pro Motocross wins or the 23 Supercross wins. The history of Ken Roczen is defined by everything he overcame. It's written in the titanium holding his bones together. It's in the choice to get up when every logical reason said to stay down. It's a story about the price of greatness and the even greater cost of reclaiming it. He showed us that talent is just the entry fee. What happens after you're broken, that's what defines you. He redefined resilience for a generation of sports fans. It's not about being invincible. It's about being vulnerable, shattered, and then patiently, stubbornly, piecing yourself back together, even when the blueprint is gone. He changed the culture of his sport. He was one of the first top riders to openly prioritize mental health, to step away for his own being, to talk about the importance of family and balance. He proved you could be a fierce competitor and also a human being with limits. And in his own way, he became the kind of father he once had, driven, protective, and determined to give his kids a better balance than he ever had growing up. Today, in 2025, he's still here, still racing, still fast, maybe not with the brutal domination of 2016, but with a wisdom and style that only a veteran who has seen the abyss can possess. He rides now not out of obligation, but out of love, for the sport, for the challenge, for the pure sensation of twisting the throttle. Ken Roczen's legacy is that he made us believe in the impossible comeback. He made us understand that the end of one chapter is just the brutal, painful, beautiful beginning of the next. He's proof that some riders aren't just built different. They are defined by what they overcome. What part of Ken's story hit you the hardest? Was it the early discipline, the peak of his dominance, or the sheer will of those comebacks? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you're into stories about people testing the limits of what the rest of us think is possible, the next one continues that journey. Thanks for watching, and stay wicked.